You know, any horse that had been champion 2-year-old, 3-year-old and 4-year-old is the highest rated horse ever with an official rating of 140. You know, the last time any horse did that was back in the 1940s. So it gives you a sort of idea of how good a racehorse he was. He retired with a blemish-free record, 14 straight victories, 10 Group 1s. So I guess from our point of view, we were in a very enviable position to actually stand the horse. I think that was number one. It was the excitement of getting him. Whether we concerned ourselves about his career going forwards at that stage, I would say not. But you know, everything that Frankel has done has been amazing, and he just continues to amaze us, and I think that will always be the case.
Yeah.
You know, from a manager's point of view, from a stallion manager's point of view, the thing about a stallion coming to stud is what I call the P's. So you look at performance, you look at pedigree, and you look at his physical attributes. And when he arrived here, he just had everything that made him a horse that could be successful. But then in the back of your mind, only 1 in 10 stallions actually make that grade.
Did you feel that there was always slight cynicism when it came to Frankel, that he could never really match his greatness on track, and how was he going to do that, and how for you at Juddmonte were you able to sort of be able to sell that dream, the hope that he could be?
There's always going to be an element of tall poppy syndrome. We're very good at that in the UK.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's our sportsmen, it doesn't matter whether it's our horses. To answer your question about his own rating, I mean, do we ever expect anything to be rated as highly as him? I'm sure that in time there will be a great horse who's rated. We have to believe that. Whether it's one of his sons or daughters, that remains to be seen. But you don't have to be rated 140 to win a classic. And as we've seen this year with his 2 classic winners already, it may well be that they'll be rated in the 130s, and hopefully they will be. But you win a classic from anywhere from 123 upwards. So as long as he can get stock of that level, he will always be successful. Everything comes in waves and cycles with stallions. So if you're a horse that comes and hits the commercial market, so basically go back to the P's, it then becomes progeny and performance from the progeny. So the progeny have to go to the sales. And if they don't quite replicate what breeders are expecting, i.e. they don't look like the horse, and in Frankel's case that's one of the issues, he actually throws to the mare a little bit more, then people get a little bit nervous when they're spending £125,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had 2 quiet years in 3 and 4, and then his first crop started racing. He had Cracksman and Soul Stirring, and away he went again.
Yeah. And so this year we see, and I think it's fascinating touching on how he throws to the mare more, and you see this beautiful Hurricane Lane, this lovely chestnut horse who physically and characteristics and the looks completely different to what we've seen with Frankel. Can you just explain a little bit more what you mean about how he throws to the mare more than other stallions do?
Well, if we take our own 2 other stallions that stand here, if we take Oasis Dream and we take Kingman, you have 2 horses who are 2 natural bay breeders for a start, and physically the progeny tend to look like them. They have very little white on them, they're straightforward, they tend to model the stallion that they've come from. Whereas with Frankel, they do tend to come in all slightly shapes and sizes, and the mare has quite a lot of influence in that. But I think where Frankel has his own impact is that they have very sound minds, they tend to be very tough and genuine, and you know, when it comes to performance, he's operating at something like 27% stakes performance to runners, which is incredibly high.
Do you see that this year has been the breakthrough that everyone, the media, is giving a lot of attention to?
I still think his first crop was the breakthrough. I really do, yeah. He was unlucky that he didn't have a Derby winner in that very first crop. I think the breakthrough this year has come in two places. It's come in the Southern Hemisphere. He's had 3 Group 1 winners down there, including an Australian Oaks winner. He's had a Group 1 winning 2-year-old, which was vitally important for him in the Southern Hemisphere. And those Group 1 winners come from a very small crop of runners, 30 runners.
Yeah.
So he's done phenomenally well down there. And it's, you know, conversely, that has bounced back onto us this side, and we've had the Group 1 winners this year, we've had the 2 Derby winners, we've had Snow Lantern as well. So, you know, it is very exciting times for him. For me, it's learning about training different horses. We all know that Frankel was very exuberant. We saw that in the Guineas. And the great thing is that trainer in Sir Henry Cecil learned how to manage that. You know, it could have gone dreadfully wrong, but it didn't. He managed him, found a way of dealing with the horse. And I think that's probably true now with trainers, and the fact that a lot of the Frankels like to be front runners, a lot of the Frankels like to be strong on the pace. They're learning to manage that.
Yeah, and it reminds me when I was at York a month or so ago, when we were talking to all the staff there and to William Darby about that day, Juddmonte International Day, the throngs of people, thousands of people just wanting to get in distance, touching distance to him, and what that's done for the race itself. And it's kept it at a magnitude because people believe they're going to see greatness in the track, and year after year that's what's happened. So it's improved racing because everyone wants to try and emulate what he did.
Well, it's interesting. I looked that up. Actually, the day he ran, the crowd was up 55% on the previous year.
Yeah.
And I remember, because Juddmonte sponsors the Juddmonte International, and we're delighted that this year it's going to be £1 million again, which is great news. But that day in particular, our guests were nearly 3/4 of an hour late to come and sit down for lunch. It was that difficult to get onto the race course. But it was his manner of victory on the day. It was his first time over 10 furlongs. The concern, you know, for me is I actually thought he was a miler. I didn't see that he could stay 10 furlongs, and I always felt he could have come back to 6 if he needed to.
Yeah.
But that day he was imperious. The way he cruised up on the outside and just leant over, Tom Queally let out an inch of rein and he was gone.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary.
It's a memory that I'd imagine you're very proud of, and to see his progeny produce that same sort of explosiveness, and that's what's been so exciting about Adayar and how he won the King George, how he won the Derby. It's that finishing kick that he is producing, and in a similar way to how perhaps Aidan O'Brien describes Galileo, you know, that they go through the wall for you. He is doing that. That must be very satisfying.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly satisfying, and I, as I say, I think the more the trainers learn how to train them,
Yeah.
the better they will get.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlie Appleby, I was having a small conversation with him, and I asked him how the 2 horses were, and he just said the more you train them, the better they get.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting. So my final question on Frankel is, what's next? What was, if the first crop was in your mind the breakthrough, and this year he's done a Derby double and he's got a King George, where else are the heights outside of what he's done this year?
Galileo has set that bar very, very high.
Yeah.
You know, we sit here and we talk about where can you be. In order to be one of the great sires of all time, you have to be right up there with the likes of Dubawi, Sadler's Wells, and of course the great Galileo. When a horse has got 92 Group 1 winners, we're talking about us at 17 at the moment. But if you take everyone's careers back in time and look at where they are, he would be leading them all. So he'd be ahead of Galileo at this stage, ahead of Dubawi, ahead of Sadler's Wells. So I am optimistic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to say where we're going to end up. I am optimistic for him.